You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
Lisa back.
You're listening to Making Tracks. I'm your co-host, Mark Newbold. This is episode 263, and joining me today is the birthday boy. It's Mark Mulcaster. Mark, how you doing, man?
Happy birthday to me.
He's a musician.
Definitely not a singer.
How's it going, man?
I'm all right, my friend. Today is my birthday. Saturday night, myself and my twin brother's joint birthday. I say joint birthday party. Basically, it was at his, and I kind of feel like he just invited me along kind of by default. So...
Can I just ask, you say joint birthday, with the joints being handed around, and is that why you've got a croaky voice?
No. Nah, it was good fun. Good fun as had by all. This is mainly my school friends. We've kept in touch all these years, which is fantastic. So they always see me on Facebook. And because I now live in Stevenage, which is a bit of a trek away, so I don't get to see them as often as I think we'd all like. They live my life vicariously through Instagram. So all they basically see is either me and you doing Star Wars stuff, me and Karen doing troops, or me gigging. So they think I have the best, fun, exciting life ever. I don't want to kind of dispel that illusion that actually
No.
it is.
No, don't let people know how hard work it is looking like you're having fun.
Exactly. I tell you what, because, I mean, past weekend I was at MCM Birmingham, which was a great convention. But, oh, my goodness, Monday I was wrecked. I was so tired. That was me only going up to Birmingham and back down, which is a couple of hours. You, my friend, flew over to Texas for Rebel ScumCon. How was that?
I could fill an episode talking about that.
Well, let's do it.
We have loads. Let's do it. We've got loads of audio coming from the show. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Loads of interviews we got. Loads of cool stuff coming. I hosted a couple of panels. I went with Matt Booker, great travelling companion, Matt. So we first, to save money on flights, we'd worked out that the best thing to do was to fly to Paris and then fly from Paris to London and then from London to Fort Worth. So the ticket is from Charles de Gaulle via Heathrow to Fort Worth. And that was, believe it or not, about 400 quid cheaper than just going direct from London.
Really?
So it was an insane savings. So me and Matt flew to Paris in the morning. We had a lovely croissant from McDonald's because it was the only place that was open. Thank you, France. And then flew back to Heathrow, a couple of hours layover, and flew to Fort Worth. So the weather over there is absolutely insane. It was well in the hundreds. So we got there on the Wednesday, got settled in, got to the hotel, got sorted out. And then the following day, with DJ Elliott, the legendary DJ Elliott, we went to Six Flags and I rode on a roller coaster called the Tormentor, which holds about 6 records for like longest vertical drop, fastest roller. It was like 87 miles an hour.
Amazing.
People were passing out because it was too fast there to slow it down. Tightest turns. It was all these crazy things. And my stupid 55-year-old ass squeezed into the seat and did it. But and I can say I've done it, and I ain't doing it again, but I've done it. It was bonkers. It was bonkers. I put my head down, like you go under the little bridgey bits. And being tall, you just always think you're going to bump your head because I've spent my life bumping my head on things. So I ducked, and the G-force was so strong, I couldn't get my head back up. It was that, seriously. Wow. It was ridiculous. So that was amazing. There was a wooden roller coaster called the Titan, which was mad as well. So we did all these rides, had a great day. And then the show started on the Friday. And long story short, absolutely freaking brilliant. Awesome show. Well run, friendly. Texas is friendly anyway. Welcoming, well organised, great guests. I mean, it was very much like Star Wars Fan Fun Day when you can approach the guests and have a chat, which you don't get at a lot of shows. Photographs with people, reconnected with loads of guys and gals that I knew. Did a couple of panels, as I say. So on the Friday, I hosted an ILM panel with John Goodson and Kim Smith. They're husband and wife, both worked at ILM for many, many years. You'll probably know John because he built the Razor Crest for Mandalorian and Grogu and the Mandalorian series and T6 Shuttle and amazing stuff like that. And then on the Sunday, I spoke to Mike Pangrazio, the map painter from Empire Strikes Back onwards. Actually, there's a panel with Mike from Power of the Force that we just put out recently on Fantha Radio. Rose Duggan, who was one of the associate producers on Karen of Courage. She worked with Lucas on Star Wars to get the RLM shop into order. fantastically organised woman. She's the bomb of the panel. It's ever so funny. And Paul Houston, who worked for ILM for 43 years, started on the original film. I think he finished on Bad Batch, I think, or something crazy like that. So just brilliant people. First time Pangrazio had ever been interviewed on a US stage. So it was just amazing. The Virtual Cantina party on the Friday night was fantastic. There was just get-togethers. There was like swag meetups. There was just fan groups getting together. I can't say enough good things about it. I really want to go next year. Highly, highly, highly recommended.
You posted a lovely picture of lots of swag and patches and stickers and everything, but did you buy anything for the actual collection that you actually had to pay for rather than just swap Fantha patches for?
The main thing that I bought, because we travelled really like cabin luggage only, was I took my poster roll and I got Joe Caroni's Rebel Scum Con exclusive, which was Bounty Hunters. That was the main thing that I bought. I did spend $20 and got the American paperback prints of, I think, Solo, Rise of Skywalker, the 2-disc radio drama of Star Wars, the Corellian trilogy, and the Thrawn trilogy on cassette. Those for $20. And I'm so annoyed I should have bought more because it was such a great deal. I should have gone through the pictures and seen the ones I was missing because they are such a great deal. And I bought some itty bitties, which I need to put away, but I've got a sneaky feeling I've already bought them. So that was $100 well spent.
Through peer pressure at MCM, I picked up one of those Cosby Series 2 Ewok plushie keyrings, which are cute as hell and annoyingly with blind bags. I've got one now, so I'm like,
I know.
the rest.
It's killer, isn't it?
Should have just bought the whole box, but In Demand only had like very few left, so they were selling pretty well. So great for them.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Best, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Nick Joseph, medal bearer Arhul Hextrapon from the final scenes of A New Hope, has passed away. He was a guy that we used to see a lot at conventions over the years. He was always around, always very approachable, very chatty. Also known for Blake Seven, The Spy Who Loved Me, EastEnders, another sad loss to the Star Wars community. Mark, any memories of Nick at any of the shows?
Yeah, I met him a few times. He was always really nice and really chatty. And it was one of those things that I don't think I ever introduced myself to him, but he obviously recognised me enough because he would always say, like, hey, how are you? I don't think he ever knew my name. But yeah, I mean, Nick was just a really nice guy. And he was, I think, one of the first Star Wars actors that I'd met. Back in the very early 2000s, it was very much like Pam Rose, Derek Lyons, and Nick, and that they were doing around that at a lot of conventions. So those three I kind of bumped into quite a lot. Very sad.
I interviewed him. It was an email exchange, but then because of that, when you see him at shows, it was a quick introduction and very similar, just always said hello. It was always very friendly and amenable. So sad loss to the Star Wars community. Another person who we lost a decade ago, unbelievably, was Kenny Baker. I can't believe it's been 10 years since Kenny... Again, he's a guy that's ever present. He's R2-D2 and always shall be. But it blew my mind when I saw posts commemorating a decade since he passed away. I'll ask the same question, Mark. Kenny was one of those guys. He was always around, always very present on the fandom scene. Any great memories of meeting up with Kenny over the years?
Yeah, so the first time I met Kenny was probably one of the first LFCCs I did at Earls Court. And he was signing. So I was there with Rebel Legion, but I think I was the only Rebel Legion member there. And it was one of those days where it was Mando Mercs invited us, but we had to get changed in the car park. So that's very early days. I think I was with Lee Towsey, and Lee got his R2 dome signed by Kenny. And basically what the guys do is they take R2's head off, as it were, put it on the desk. But obviously Kenny, being so small in stature, almost literally had to climb into the dome to sign it. Then I got an auto signed with him and stuff. And he had posted lots of photos with the base over the years. Any event that we were at, he'd always kind of wander over. Like Anthony Daniels does that a lot as well, actually, to his day, which is fantastic.
My first memory of meeting him was Celebration Europe in 2007 at one of the hotels just opposite the XL. There was a whole bunch of us in there. It's when I met Bonnie Burton, and there was a whole crowd of folks in there, and a lot of the artists, Rojo Caroni and those guys, who was just at Rebel Scum Con, funny enough, were there. And I just remember Kenny sitting there with a glass of red wine, which, as I described at the time, looked like a guy balancing a bucket on a stick. It was a regular-sized glass of red wine, and it looked like he was carrying a bucket on a stick. It was really funny, and he was enjoying that. And I remember Steve Sansweet was there, and I remember everybody just talking and having a good old time. I'd interviewed him via email for Lightsaber in about 2005 and got some really good answers, really good answers. And so I was quite privileged to write the in memoriam piece for him in Insider. And I was able to pull a quote from my interview with him in 2005, which was kind of nice for me. And I've just basically posted that piece on Fantha for folks to have a read because it kind of sums up his career and his life. And he did have a really interesting career and a really interesting life.
Bless him. 10 years, remarkable, isn't it, how quickly time flies? And actually, when you say that, I can remember being in the Rick McCallum panel at Celebration Europe in 2007. And Rick was like, yeah, I'll be at the bar at Novotel later. And you think now in like 2026, going into 2027, no one would say that on stage at Celebration anymore.
No.
You know,
I've got to say, though, you say that. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, who plays Carson Taver in the Mandoverse and the film, was there, one of the guests, and he was, and you'll hear some audio with him on the show very soon, was absolutely wonderful. And he couldn't do enough for the fans. He couldn't spend enough time. He couldn't take enough pictures. He couldn't chat enough. He walked past me and Booker in the hotel foyer, and without even looking at us, went, "Hi, Mark. Hi, Matt." He just had an incredible memory. But he came down the one evening to the bar, and there was whole tables of people just sitting around chatting. And he sat at every table for 10 minutes, had a conversation. Yeah. And then the next day we interviewed him and we were just like, that was crazy what you did last night. Why did you do that? Well, you guys travel halfway around the world, or you guys traveled in from the other side of the States. And I just wanted to show my appreciation. So he, I would say, is a very rare example of what you're just referring to McCullum, because like in all these instances, Rick's like, yeah, I'll be at the bar tonight. Come over and say hello.
Well, can you imagine if Dave did that now?
Wouldn't that be nice? I actually got drunk with Dave Filoni once, but that's another story for another time.
My name is Dean Charles Chapman, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Next year is the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. It's also the 50th anniversary of Star Wars and Marvel pairing up for Star Wars Issue 1, a comic which sold 1 million copies. It was the first million-selling comic in the post-war era. It pretty much saved Marvel. And now, 50 years later, we're going to get a 5-issue crossover between Marvel and Star Wars called Hope Assembles. It arrives January 2027. Kevin Smith is writing it. David Marquez is drawing it. And it means that finally we get a crossover between the MCU and the GFFA. I have thoughts, but Mark, before we get into my thoughts, what are your thoughts? Star Wars and Marvel crossing over for the 50th anniversary 5-issue series. Good idea, bad idea?
Do you know what? Why not? It is what it is, isn't it? It's a marketing thing, basically. It's there to, I guess, promote both franchises and try and give what is a very lackluster part of both franchises a bit of a kick up the arse these days because, comics aren't selling. Obviously, I guess the problem is, and I think maybe this is where a lot of people are being concerned, is that you do it once, does that then open the floodgates to everything else? Now, hopefully, if they're savvy, they won't do it after the 5th issue and we'll just leave it at. So I don't buy comics anymore, but I think I might just have to at least pick up the first issue just out of morbid curiosity. It's like rubbernecking on the motorway when you see an accident, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of probably the best way of putting it.
I like that analogy. So I know a few people who are not happy with this, not impressed, don't think it's going to work, think it's creative bankruptcy, can't Star Wars come up with better ideas than this. The MCU and Marvel are awash with plot lines and stories. To my mind, this isn't of great benefit to Marvel, but it is of more benefit to Star Wars. This will put Star Wars in front of a comic reading audience that might not gravitate to Star Wars because they think that's just Star Wars. It's printed by Marvel, but it's nothing to do with Marvel. And now there's going to be kids who see this and go, oh yeah, Dr. Doom and Darth Vader are kind of similar, aren't they? And they're going to start pairing the eternal hopefulness of Captain America with Luke Skywalker and so on and so forth. So when I first heard this, I thought, dear, it's finally happened. The two things I said I didn't ever want to see in Star Wars was introduction of time travel, which just unravels the whole chronology. And once you've done that, it really is done. And crossing Star Wars over with other franchises, other IPs. But actually looking at this, I've had a few days to think about it. And I'm a little bit more in the mindset of your good self. I'm like, oh, what the hell? It's the 50th. Let's just have fun with it. Clearly, Star Wars is a long time ago, a long way away. There's no logical reason for this to happen. It is literally just, what the hell? Let's just have fun with it. Let Marvel celebrate Star Wars by letting Star Wars play in their sandbox for a little while. Because goodness knows, Star Wars doesn't need any other sandboxes. It's big enough. Also, there's not a lot of Star Wars comics at the moment. There's mini-series, but they really are kind of spinning their wheels until Starfighter comes out. Because then there's going to be a whole bunch of new stuff coming next year. Ongoing series, all sorts of stuff. Let's do things like this now when it doesn't really matter. And you can, as you say, just kind of go to a Marvel Comics. Have a read of this. You might learn a little bit about Star Wars. You said something earlier in the show that's really interesting about how... no, don't look so surprised. It actually was interesting. about pulling in new readership, new viewerships, younger people. You know, Star Wars definitely right now is skewing older because there's so many other shiny magpie objects to draw your attention away from Star Wars. And I do think that now we're at the 50th, things like this will just be the indicator to see whether or not the interest is there. It'll grab people's attention. Some older fans just will stay a million miles away from it and think, thank God I don't collect comics anymore. And others might just be like, I'm kind of interested in how they do this. So that's kind of where I sit. I wasn't impressed at first, but actually the more I think about it, I'm a bit like yourself. I'm like, oh, what the hell? It's the 50th. Let's just enjoy it. It's not canon, is it? They're not going to bring the Human Torch into modern Star Wars storytelling, for example. It's not going to happen. So just enjoy it.
I approach it the same way as I approach any Star Wars Lego, even though that's more in Galaxy and keeping. What they do in the the Lego specials and stuff is so kind of out there. Like, there's no way you can really want to start trying to reconcile that into canon and this and that. So both of them are owned by Disney, so why not? Hopefully there'll be physical copies in a comic store. So if nothing else, walk into a comic store, have a flick through it. If it's not for you, maybe pick up something else. And let's never talk about this again. It could very well end up being in the same breath as a Star Wars holiday special.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
2nd of September 2026, that's the day you really want to be heading to Disney Plus because The Mandalorian and Grogu will be arriving there after its theatrical run, which began in May and brought in $345 million worldwide. And here we will be able to see not only The Mandalorian and Grogu, but also The Mandalorian and Grogu official podcast, which will go behind the scenes with the creatives, the cast, the crew, the filmmakers, everybody else. Give us a little bit of insight into how this beautiful, beautiful film was made. Mark, what a world. Back when Star Wars came out, you had to wait 5 years for that to come to video. When Empire came out, it was 4. When Jedi came out, it was 3. Phantom Menace took a year. And now, what is it, 5 months? And it's on home video. It's crazy, isn't it?
It does always feel a little bit crazy in this day and age. And this is the reason why a lot of people are kind of touting streaming as the death of cinema, because they are so eager to get stuff in. Now, obviously, we're not going to ever have a repeat of Star Wars, as it were, and they're going to re-release Mando and Grogu next year. And it's kind of frustrating because the physical copies as well. I've struggled to get a steelbook copy of Mando and Grogu. It's sold out everywhere, which is great. But then even some of the other physical copies are coming out on like the 2nd of October, not even like the same time as streaming. So you just like, what are you doing? Put it all out in one go. Probably the thing to do would be to get as much money out of this property would be to offer the physical copies first.
Yes.
And then put it on streaming. That could be your Christmas promo rather than like in the middle of when the kids are all back to school and actually who cares too much.
It's a weird one. D23's happening and announcements flying out from there. But one thing or two things that haven't been announced that is surprising is that there's no live-action MCU on Disney Plus coming after Daredevil Season 3, and there's no live-action Star Wars coming to Disney Plus after Ahsoka Season 2. And that says that they're changing tack now. They're heading back towards the cinema. And so you just wonder, what's the future for projects like this? A film like Mando and Grogu should have done better at the cinema. And hopefully it's covered its nose because there's other ancillary outlets for that film to make money, like going on to video on demand, onto home video, physical, as you've just mentioned, and then all the offshoot stuff that come into the parks and everywhere else. So it does make you wonder how it's going to play out. And also, when Starfighter comes out next year, we're in the 50th. And so, obviously, we've got the original Star Wars coming out. Filoni mentioned that on stage in the Lucasfilm panel. That's going to have an impact. That's going to hit Disney Plus at some point. You wonder whether or not they're going to do a box set. You also wonder whether or not they are going to do Empire and Jedi as well, which is my sincere hope. If we're going to do Star Wars, you might as well do Empire and Jedi. As far as it goes, Mando and Grogu, 2nd of September, Disney Plus. Yep. Make a date, buy your popcorn, and enjoy it for what it is. A very, very good, enjoyable popcorn film.
Hi, everyone. This is Misty Roses, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. I have spoken.
So, D23, Anaheim Convention Center, loads and loads of news. If you're a Star Wars fan, a Marvel fan, a Pixar, Disney, or any other kind of fan of anything to do with the House of Mouse. And one of the big pieces of news that came out of it was Star Wars Starfighter. There was clips and scenes and a teaser shown on stage. Nobody outside of the room has seen it, he says, waggling the air quotes. But those that have seen it say it's absolutely fantastic. It looks brilliant. It's a whole new series of characters, ships, planets coming to us on the 28th of May next year. Sean Levy came on stage with Ryan Gosling wearing a Mickey Mouse jacket, puts on a new jacket with the main logo from Starfighter. They revealed the logo. Loads and loads and loads and loads of really, really good news. The cast is set. The film's nearly done. ILM look like they're absolutely smashing it. What did you make of this, Mark? Just seeing some Starfighter stuff now. It's really starting to ramp up. We're not that far away in the grand scheme of things. What did you make of the Starfighter content?
About this time last year that we started getting rumblings and stuff from Mando and Grogu. I clearly haven't, wink, seen anything from the panel that I wasn't supposed to see, wink, but it looks freaking great. And it's just something about it. There's a vibe here that I'm just like, yeah, this I think could really blow the doors off of a lot of Star Wars that we've seen recently. You know, not from a visual perspective, just from like a whole tonal perspective.
Yes.
Almost on some levels going back to basics a little bit with the storytelling. It's very encouraging. I mean, you can see, like, clearly see the chemistry between Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling on stage. And yeah, that Club Mickey jacket was quite fun because that's obviously where Ryan got his big break. How old is he? He's
mid-40s. He's older than
he
you
is.
think.
And then he puts on this new jacket. And the new jacket is interesting because it's kind of like, obviously with the streaming quality and stuff, it's an upside down Rebel logo, which in itself is significant. And then it's two crosses, which it could be two lightsabers crossed, it could be two blasters crossed, it could be an X-Wing, or it could be maybe the back of a ship that may be connected to Ryan's character that we finally get the name of, which is Cabe Oberon, which sounds very cool to me and kind of very reminiscent of an MMO character that you would come up if you're doing like Star Wars, like West End Games or something like that.
It does. You remember Star Wars Legacy, the Dark Horse series?
Yes.
You know, and the characters in that had those kind of names. Cade Skywalker, yeah. It's got that vibe.
As you could imagine. Not a huge amount in terms of like details about the plot or anything really kind of coming out or who these other characters are. You know, the cast being announced, but not necessarily like the characters and stuff. We are still at the very starting blocks for Starfighter, but it's very exciting and May will be with us sooner rather than later because, you know, we're going to rip through, you know, the 50th anniversary and the re-release of Star Wars, which again was talked about. Was it officially announced at D23 or was it just more of a reminder?
More of a reminder. So Filoni came on stage, mentions the 50th, mentions the re-release, then gets into Ahsoka Season 2, then gets into Starfighter with Sean Levy coming out and Ryan Gosling. Yeah, I'm very much with you. Now we're on that run down towards May. Really, for us, certainly here at Fantha Tracks, we just want to get beyond, not that you want to wish your life away, but get beyond the 31st of December, get into the 50th year, and it really starts because in February, as you say, we've got Star Wars. In January, we've got Ahsoka Season 2. And then you've got Celebration, and then it's just going to be mad next year. I think this year's been mad enough, but next year is going to be absolutely off the hook.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Dave did actually give us a Season 2 trailer to watch. So what did you make of that?
I loved it. I mean, I'm excited for it anyway because we've waited so long for it. But the thing that really lit me up, and this is so facile and so surface level geekery.
That's fine.
Just looked like Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful crispness to the space battle scenes in Jedi. Being over Endor, the blue of the engines, the red of the lasers, just everything about Jedi, when you think it was optical especially, just looked so crisp. And Rogue One did an amazing job of harkening back. So that was keeping that original Star Wars A New Hope vibe in the terms of the battle. And so they've done a great job, ILM, of really honouring what went before, which is very, very important. This had that beautiful look. You, again, when we spoke earlier, made a brilliant point about the B-Wings, how you saw the sort of the Shantipole laser fire coming out from Rebels, which I thought was fantastic to see, and another nice tie back to that show as well. And just, you get brief glimpses of Rory McCann as Baylan Skull, just brief little moments, just enough. You see Ezra and Zeb reuniting. There's just enough in there that you totally teed up for what's going to come on January the 20th. So I'm very much looking forward to it. What did you make of it?
If this was a teaser trailer, then this actually revealed quite a lot. You know, we really get a bit of address from Thrawn kind of saying about, like, you know, he's basically coming back to take on the rebellion and stuff. I always like how in all the books and stuff has basically referred to Rebel Alliance or the New Republic or whatever as the rebellion. It just won't kind of like acknowledge that. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it looks like things are like from a tempo perspective and action beats and stuff is kind of ramping up quite a bit, which is cool. I mean, those drop ships that kind of bury into the actual kind of side of the like New Republic ships and that looks really cool. Night Sisters doing stuff as well. I'm going to be really interested to see how they've balanced this, because it's very much, it sounds like there's two distinct stories going on in the two distinct galaxies. We know Dave Filoni is very much Lord of the Rings. It's very Lord of the Rings-esque. It's very Two Towers, having very distinct stories going on, very completely different. You had like Helm's Deep, and then you had Sam and Frodo working with Gollum through the Emyn Muil. I'm kind of wondering if that's what you're going to get. So you're going to have maybe something that is slightly more upbeat and action-based in the galaxy that we know, and then in the Peridian galaxy, maybe something that is a lot more subtext to it and be kind of more thought out and deep into the bones and the DNA of what the Jedi are and stuff like that. Because I think there's going to be a lot of false discussion in this series as well. Yeah, very exciting.
It's good to see Hayden very much front and centre, and it doesn't feel like they're forcing it, because obviously he's the Force ghost that Ahsoka has connected with. And whilst we're seeing, it's brilliant seeing Hayden as Anakin, because we had the prequels with him as that, and it wasn't until the very end where he became Darth Vader, it also doesn't feel like they're ignoring the fact that all this sage advice that he's giving Ahsoka is coming from the guy that ultimately doesn't take any of that advice and becomes the greatest villain in cinema history. Even though we're looking at Hayden and we love to see Hayden, and it's brilliant to have him there, I'm very enthused by the way that they've worked him in, because Hayden must have sat there at some points and gone, what is there for me to do in Star Wars other than maybe voiceover work or conventions? How could he creatively be involved in future Star Wars projects? And now you look at this, he's right back at the very, very core of Star Wars.
Yeah, that is very exciting, isn't it? You know, to think that we're 20 plus years on from like Revenge of the Sith, and you know, Hayden is still featuring and could potentially have a really pivotal role in shaping, like, you know, what Ahsoka does next, and you know, with the advice that he gives her or the advice that she takes and stuff. So it's really cool, and it was great to see they had the costumes out on display at D23. So that's kind of cool. That's one of those deep cuts that, like, if you know and if you remember. And if you revisited Clone Wars, and it's great, but actually it looks so Star Wars, it doesn't matter.
Hello, this is Sam Whitwer, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Ewan McGregor, he has been promoting very, very heavily, and quite rightly, The End of Oak Street. Brilliant, brilliant film, co-starring Anne Hathaway, who was a special visual effects all by herself. ILM did great work on the show. Go and see it if you can. But in the process of promoting that film, Ewan had sat down with Anne Hathaway, and they did discuss his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Ewan has kind of continued that conversation by making it very, very clear, and I say very, very clear with a capital very, that he would love to come back and do more with the character. He does say here, I'd really like to do it again, because at the end of the original series, me and Liam just wander off. There's got to be a great story, or maybe two, or maybe three, or a series. So he wants to come back. He wants to plug back into the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, because the years are passing by. He's rushing up towards the age that Alec Guinness was, who was 63 who made the original Star Wars, and Ewan is 55. I know that because we're exactly the same age. So that is moving on. Time is moving on. He's made it clear he wants to do more. His wife is in Ahsoka Season 2, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, playing Hera Syndulla. Okay, under the proviso that you enjoyed Season 1, or didn't, it's totally your own choice, but would you want to see Ewan come back and do more? And if he did, what would you like to see and what would you like not to see?
I really liked Obi-Wan, although I kind of felt like the last episode, I felt like it started to jump the shark a little bit. Just kind of running around the moisture farm and the way it did it just felt slightly contrived. The biggest letdown was also the biggest surprise. I kind of wanted him to get through the whole season without having reached Qui-Gon. But it was great to see Liam Neeson. I felt like it was just a little bit too clean, you know, just a little bit too kind of like the bow's been perfectly put on there, as if there wasn't ever going to be a second season. So to that point, you kind of go, well, does that mean that we get Obi-Wan back and Ewan back? Can we get Liam back and Qui-Gon? And, you know, could we have some of that communion? That would be quite interesting. But I think we have to be a little bit careful, because I think what we're kind of almost doing is we're kind of moving the legacy on by 20 plus years. So we've spent a lot of time in the sequel trilogy kind of focusing on the legacy characters of like Han, Luke and Leia. And the risk is if you start to then rely and move Anakin and Obi-Wan into this new era, Matt? Are we kind of doing the same kind of thing, but we're just moving the timeline on again, and therefore maybe focusing more on the past than necessarily maybe the future of the story of Star Wars? Because these are all great, and basically all but we're really doing, especially with Obi-Wan, is we are just filling in the blanks of like what happened. And there's a big blank to be fair, there's a big blank of time that we don't know what Obi-Wan did. So it's cool to see some of that. But what I'm kind of saying is, yes, I really want to see a second season of Obi-Wan and fill more of that blanks in, but I don't want Lucasfilm to start maybe relying on the legacy prequel characters in a similar way as they've relied on their legacy OT characters. We want to move on into new stories.
Because there's 20 years, 19 years between Sith and A New Hope, and the first season of Kenobi kind of sat somewhere in the middle. And the way they made the connection between Obi-Wan and Leia, I love that. I thought that was brilliant. So I wouldn't be averse to seeing more of those characters, more of that scenario investigated. If we go back to Alderaan for any reason, if Leia's in it, obviously Vivian Laura Blair is significantly older now, so she could play an older Leia if that's the way they want to go. If you want to use Benjamin Bratt to play Bail Organa, you can do that. If Jimmy Smits isn't available or unwilling to do it, they can go that route if they want to, because you've established that in Andor. So there's lots of things you can do. I do think if you move forward with Kenobi, kind of got to protect his appearance because nobody's supposed to know. So you've got to protect that. So there's things you can do there. Another thing to take into account is Ahsoka is now doing a lot of Clone Wars flashbacks because you've got Anakin there, you've got Ahsoka there who was there in the Clone Wars, and it's relevant to her character's progression in that era. You do run the risk of doing the same thing if you do Kenobi and start having flashbacks, because if you can get Natalie Portman involved, why wouldn't you? So all of a sudden you've got Natalie and Hayden and Ewan again doing flashbacks. You could very easily get Samuel L. Jackson in and do a de-aged Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. You could do the same with Ian McDiarmid and a de-aged, obviously a lot of de-aging involved, but you could do this and pretty much bring back that cast that were there, especially for Revenge of the Sith era. You could do it if you wanted to. It would be phenomenal. We had it in The Mandalorian with the Keller and Beck stuff. It's mind-blowing. It's brilliant when it's done right, but it's a well that you could go to too often. It's one of the reasons I like Book of Boba Fett was the contrivance, the plot contrivance for him to give us as a viewer a flashback was being in the Bacta tank. And that was kind of cool because he went in the Bacta tank and he said, where does your mind go? You've got to relax. You can't do anything. That's his mind going back to things that brought him to the present. And even though that show was a bit up and down in terms of quality, that as a plot hook was clever because it was unique to the show. But we don't want to keep going into the world between worlds. We don't want to keep touching on that. So if they do a second season of Kenobi, I really hope that we do get something more in line with John Jackson Miller's book, more self-contained on Tatooine.
Yes.
More local, more of a Western, more where people aren't hooked into what's going on in the galaxy and just seeing some random old guy in the desert literally is just some crazy old hermit in the desert and nothing more. And nothing flags up his presence on Tatooine. I don't want to see Vader in it again. I don't mind a flashback, don't get me wrong. But I don't want to see him or them physically interact again. That's done until A New Hope, and then that's that. So I think there's plenty of scope, and I also think there's plenty of real potential for Ewan to bite his teeth into some real juicy character stuff for Ben, because he was more like the Ben Kenobi we know at the end of Kenobi, kind of got his mojo back. How does he learn to disappear when Vader strikes him with the lightsaber?
Yeah, how do you practice something like that?
Qui-Gon clearly shows him. Yoda says that at the end of episode 3. So that's the sort of stuff I would like to see. But we could have a Leia story running alongside. A season of Kenobi could also have a B story or whatever, parallel A story of Leia.
But
and Luke.
Well, but this is it. This is, and I think you said this before, isn't it? Is that A New Hope and the original trilogy is Luke's story.
Yeah.
And this was kind of a worry, isn't it, about even bringing Luke into Kenobi about last kind of episode, is that suddenly it's like he's kind of getting dragged into like galactic adventures when he shouldn't be. No. He should be naive, unaware of everything else that's really going on in the galaxy. Yeah. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, he wants to leave for the Empire. So if suddenly he's being chased by stormtroopers, he's never going to want to join the Empire after that.
No, that's a great point.
Whereas with Leia, she needs to see what is going on in the galaxy.
The harsh realities.
The harsh realities, exactly. And become awakened to the senators and the politics and stuff. So she can be in that position for A New Hope. I don't know how old Vivian Laura Blair is currently, or let's say in a couple of years' time. But if you had a 14, 15 or 16-year-old Leia, that's kind of a perfect age. And you could actually deal with loads of stuff. Okay, it could be a little bit teenage angsty. It could be your first crush or your boyfriend and stuff like that, and the kind of stuff that we only hear about from Padme in Attack of the Clones. We could kind of like experience all that, and that could be interesting. I think even we said this before Obi-Wan came out. The more you take Obi-Wan Kenobi out of Tatooine, it waters down the sacrifice and his exile to that planet. If we know that he'd gone off 20 times around the galaxy and saved everybody, there hasn't really been any kind of penance. He's not really looking after Luke at that stage. It's down to his aunt and uncle. Thank you, Mr. Newbold. I can go and have some birthday cake. I would save you a slice, but it's not going to make it up to CE, so I'm just going to eat it for you. No listeners' question this week, unfortunately, but if you do like to send in a listeners' question, we would love to hear from you. So, Mark, tell people how they can get in touch, please.
I will do exactly that. Drop us an email, and this is how you can do it.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
And that's me done for this episode, but before I go, I will say we've got loads of content coming from Festival of the Force from a couple of weeks ago, and also, as we've been talking about all through the episode, loads of content from Rebel Scum Con, so stay tuned.
Everybody else, I'll see you very, very soon. So remember, have a fantastic week in Star Wars, whatever that means to you, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks Live.